Ukraine is now successfully using its own long-range Flamingo and Neptune missiles together. That's what President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said as he commented on Ukraine's recent strikes inside Russia.
Over the past week, I won't say how many times, we've used our pair of Neptune and Flamingo missiles. The results speak for themselves. We're not saying this is a large-scale use of these weapons, only that they've been deployed, and the first tangible results of our own systems are already visible.
President Zelensky called the strikes on Russian oil refineries a success. According to him, Russia is now facing a fuel shortage estimated between 13% and 20%. All attacks, he said, are carried out with Ukraine's domestically produced weapons, from missiles to drones. At the same time, Ukraine's military does not target Russian civilians. As for blackouts in Belgorod, Zelensky said that Russians too should feel the consequences of this war.
Palyannitsia has already struck enemy ammunition depots dozens of times. This is a positive development. We had different phases, but now it's no longer about isolated cases. Another positive, Ruta, our drone missile, has for the first time hit a sea platform more than 250 kilometers away. The biggest success is Lutyi, or Firepoint. It was used on a large scale, around 300 units, and that was a major operation. We understand now that Ust-Luga and Primorsk are within reach. What happened is, in my opinion, truly a great success.
The president also commented on the situation at the front line. He said that Russia's summer-autumn offensive was a complete failure that came at a high cost, with thousands of pieces of equipment destroyed and heavy personal losses. None of the positions they claimed they would capture were taken. According to Zelensky, Putin tried to convince Donald Trump that he would be able to seize Donbas by November this year, but Ukrainian forces have derailed those plans.
It happened just as I told him. The Russians will not take the east, and if they try to do so, Putin will have to bury 1 million of his people. That's because we understand how many he has already buried after taking 30% of our east since the start of the full-scale war, and we can predict what he would have to do to try to take all of Donbass or other parts of Ukraine.
On the night of October 9th, Ukrainian drones hit a gas processing plant in Russia's Volgograd region. The targets included the Lukoil Korobovsky gas processing plant in the town of Kotova and the Yefimovka oil and gas dispatch station. The Ukrainian General Staff confirmed the attack was successful. The Korobovsky plant is one of the largest in southern Russia for processing neutral and associated petroleum gas. It has an annual capacity of 450 million cubic meters of gas and 186,000 tons of light hydrocarbons. This facility is critical for Russia's oil and gas infrastructure, processing gas, condensate, and producing raw materials for the chemical industry. Yefimovka is a station that manages several main pipelines transporting oil and oil products in the region with a capacity of 50 million tons per year. Explosions and fires were reported at both sites. Details of the full extent of the damage are still being confirmed. NATO allies are discussing the possibility of a stronger response to Russia's increasingly provocative actions against member states, including potentially a military reaction. This was reported by the Financial Times. NATO is considering a range of options in response to Russia's increasingly provocative actions. These include deploying armed drones along the border with Russia and loosening rules for pilots, allowing them to engage Russian aircraft more quickly. For NATO officials familiar with the talks say the goal is to make Russia pay a high price for its hybrid warfare and to set clear countermeasures after repeated airspace violations by Russian drones and planes. Countries bordering Russia, supported by France and the UK, initiated these discussions. Proposals also include arming spy drones used to monitor Russian military activity and easing rules for pilot patrolling the eastern border to neutralize Russian threats. Another option under consideration is holding NATO military exercises along the border, especially in remote and less secured areas. The publication notes a series of Russian provocations, including drone incursions into Poland and Romania and fighter jet provocations in Estonia. Meanwhile, dozens of unidentified drones have caused massive disruption at airports in Belgium, Denmark, and Germany, with some officials linking them to Russia's hybrid warfare. Two NATO officials said one urgent task is to simplify engagement rules on the eastern flank. Some countries require fighter pilots to visually confirm a threat before firing, while others allow engagement based on radar data or the likely danger posed by their target's direction and speed. Sources say talks, which began in a small group of directly affected countries, have expanded as other capitals recognize the growing scale of the Russian threat. According to one official, some countries are pushing for a more aggressive NATO stance as a deterrent, while others advise a more cautious approach given the risk of a direct confrontation with a nuclear power. Russia continues to insist on Ukraine's complete surrender. The country still holds on to the idea of winning the war against Ukraine. President Volodymyr Putin believes Russia can outlast the West in a war of attrition and keeps pushing for Ukraine's total capitulation. At the same time, the Russian dictator continues to make his army's success on the front look bigger than they really are, especially when it comes to territory. This was reported by the US-based Institute for the Study of War. At a meeting with Russia's military and political leadership, Vladimir Putin claimed that Russian forces had captured 4,900 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory in 2025. Analysts, however, dispute this, citing evidence that the actual occupied area is closer to 3,561 square kilometers this year. The Russian dictator also insisted that his country remains committed to fully achieving all its goals in the war. Meanwhile, Russia's chief of the general staff claims that Russian forces are advancing in almost all directions on the front. Experts say these statements fit Russia's long-standing so-called theory of victory. They also note that Putin believes Russian military and economic power can outlast Western support for Ukraine and the country's ability to continue defending itself.
Putin's public statements continue to demonstrate his unwillingness to engage in good faith negotiations that result in anything less than full Ukrainian capitulation, and his determination to protract the war to achieve his war aims on the battlefield.
Israel and Hamas have signed the first phase of a peace plan, which includes the release of all hostages and the withdrawal of Israeli forces to an agreed line. US President Donald Trump announced this on his social media account, Trust Social. Trump called it a great day for the Arab and Muslim world, for Israel, for all neighboring countries, and for the United States.
I am very proud to announce that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of our peace plan. This means that all of the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed-upon line as the first steps toward a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. All parties will be treated fairly.
Later, Donald Trump said he might visit the Middle East on Sunday following progress in peace talks between Israel and Hamas. He said the negotiations for a settlement in the region are going very well. In a later phone interview with Axios and CNN, Trump added that he could visit Israel and speak at the Knesset. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen welcomed the announcement of a ceasefire and the release of all hostages in Gaza, based on the proposal put forward by US President Donald Trump. She noted that the EU will continue to support the fast and safe delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza and will be ready to help with reconstruction and recovery when the time comes.
I commend the diplomatic efforts of the United States, Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey in achieving this breakthrough. Am also encouraged by the support of the government of Israel and the Palestinian Authority. Now, all parties must fully uphold the terms of the agreement. All hostages must be released safely. A permanent ceasefire must be established. The suffering must end.
That's it for now. For the latest news, follow our X account War and Politics 24. The link is in the video description.